Hello and welcome to the Facts Over Fandom show. My name is Brandon Podgorski, sport management and leadership professor. And at the Facts Over Fandom show, I like to give you sport leadership in about, I've been saying in 10 minutes or less, in about 10 minutes or less. And if you watched the episode or listened to the episode last week, and thank you for those who did, I talked a little bit about the show a lot about USA soccer in the development of our soccer athletes here in the United States, how it's different from some European countries mostly, and even from some Latin countries. And then I started to kind of preface what we're going to talk about this week. And we're going to look at youth sports, and we're going to look at why do 70% of kids drop out of sports by age 13, why early specialization doesn't work, and how us as leaders, whether we're coaches, parents, people in the community, administrators, how we can do a little bit better for our kids. And the reason why this came about, I'm a dad, I've got a 6-year-old son who's starting to play sports. And right now we're just putting him in everything. Whatever he says he wants to do, he gets a chance to do it. Now, right now, he's best at baseball, and that seems to be his favorite sport, which is great because it's my favorite sport. I just love baseball, and I'm a huge Cubs fan. But try anything, buddy. And he has. He's done baseball. He's done basketball. He's done soccer. He's done flag football. And he's doing flag football again this fall, which was interesting because I gave him the choice. He's starting to play baseball and do pretty well. And I said, hey, there's a fall league that you can do. And you'd be going up an age group because of your birthday. And I think you could handle it. And you're having a lot of fun. Do you want to play baseball again? And he's like, no, Dad, I really want to play football. And I asked him probably about a dozen times, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, Dad, I really want to play football. Great. And that's what we're going to talk about. You know, we want to put ourselves almost in the shoes of kids, and what can we do to develop kids well and understand that the development of kids, it's different from the development of adults. And sometimes as parents, and I don't think a lot of parents mean to do this or a lot of coaches mean to do this, but we kind of inhibit the development of kids because we can only think through an adult lens, or we want to try to set them up for the future and set them up to be the best competitors or best athletes. But again, we're thinking about it from an adult lens and not necessarily how do we develop kids well. And in the science on this over the past couple decades has been really, really strong, and I want to share that with you today. So first, let's kind of set the scene here. What is the youth sport crisis? What's gone wrong? And, you know, again, this is personal to me. I take my son to go play baseball, and he plays at a big facility here just north of Indianapolis. And again, if you've been in the travel circuit, you know where I'm talking about. And you go there, and he's in T-ball, and it's great. It's instructional, and then they play a little game. There's no score. Everybody gets to bat. Everybody gets the field. It's great. It's fantastic. And his coach this year was dynamite. I might talk a little bit more about him here coming up in the rest of the show. But he was fantastic, and I'm going to tell you why here in just a minute. But in this big facility, there's soccer fields, lacrosse fields, football fields, baseball diamonds, softball diamonds, big field house for basketball. I mean, you name the sport, they have competitions and tournaments running all year long. And, you know, being somebody who studied this, and I wore this polo deliberately, my Ohio University coaching education, that's where my first master's came from. And it's kind of basically coaching pedagogy, coaching the coaches. And we looked a lot about youth. And this is kind of a really big research focus for me is youth sport development. And I'm just seeing every weekend, the diamonds are full from like 8 a.m. to midnight of travel teams. And the amount of gear that parents have to buy and the amount of time that they have to invest. And there's an opportunity cost to that because we're going to put our kid into this, but it takes away from kind of doing other things with our family. The amount of money that's invested. And it hit me the second weekend where we went out there to play. They're charging people $10 to park their car with no in and out benefits. So if you're coming in from out of town to the northern suburb of Indianapolis, you know, you've paid for all the team fees. You've paid for all the equipment. You're paying and taking away from time from your family to come to this event. And now we're also going to charge you $10 just for the luxury of parking, and we're not even going to let you leave and come back. Because if you come back, you've got to pay again. And there's no restaurant within walking distance. I mean, you could walk, but it's going to be a mile-long walk, and a lot of people don't want to do that, right? And then there's all these vendors set up. Hey, you need recovery sleeve, like the Normatec recovery sleeves, or you need the Theragun, or you need this special training. There's a lot of people getting rich off these kids. And what's the benefit to the kids? I don't know. You know, I mean, you get to play, which is fun. But couldn't you stay home in a rec league and played and had fun and be with your friends? And then when that's over, you can go to the birthday parties. You can have friends sleeping over. You can do all these different things. I mean, same fun, right? Is the benefit, hey, I get to go play college? Or maybe I can go play pro? Well, do the numbers bear that out? Right? It's leading to chaotic family schedules. The costs are astronomical, right? And there's just not a lot of fun in this. Right? So again, 70% of kids quit organized sport by age 13. And the number one reason when we survey kids, and there was a longitudinal study that looked at this, the number one reason why they drop out, it's not fun anymore. And a big part of that is parental pressure. Right? Kids just want to have fun. And if we contrast what was happening in the 50s and the 60s before all these leagues started to pop up, because if you were like me growing up as a kid, I had the most fun just playing in my neighbors' yards with my friends. Yes, Little League was fun, and youth basketball and organized basketball was fun, but it was just so much fun being with my friends. If I could go back to 12 years old and just playing with my friends and just give me one more time to be with those guys, like that'd be priceless. Right now, I have an amazing life. I wouldn't give it up for the world. I love being a dad. I love being a husband. I love all these things. But oh my goodness, it was just so fun because it was just pure, right? And we've shifted. So, 50s and 60s, it was informal. It was joyful. Kids led the play. But now everything is adult-controlled performance culture. We've come into this specialized professionalization of youth sport, where if you want to get involved, it's not just getting together with friends and playing out in your neighborhood. No. We got to put you on a team, and there's got to be practice, and there's going to be games, and we're going to start ramping up competition really quick because we think that's the best for kids. And oh no. We're going to have all-star teams starting at 7 years old, and if you don't get in this all-star team by 7, well, you're not going to be able to play with the all-star team when you get older. And we're going to demand all of your time on the weekends, and you're going to have practices a few times a week. You got to let kids be kids, because what's the point? What's the point of youth sports? For me, I would say the point of youth sports, one, it should be fun, because that's what the kids are telling us, right? 2, it's about learning a new skill. Right? 3, it's about giving kids an appreciation for play and keeping them active for life. And I think 4, it's to start to prepare kids for the real world as they get older. Teamwork, dedication, hard work. These are all great skills we can teach through sport, but yet we take sport as this one little thing, and we got to totally make it about competition and about trying to get a college scholarship or about trying to go pro. Where do we do that in other ways of life? Like, if I put my kid in piano lessons, I expect he's going to struggle, and I expect it's going to take a lot of practice, and I expect that his rehearsal, like any type of performance that he gives, is probably going to be about 10% of the time that he's going to be training. But yet when it comes to sports, we totally invert that. Why? Right? Well, listen on. Maybe I might tell you. Right? So what we're seeing with parents and with kids is that we want to put them in sports early, and we want to specialize them in a sport early because we think that's going to have long-term success. So 60% of youth athletes, they specialize before the age of 12, and the average age of specialization now is about 8 years old. Right? But again, what research and data is showing us is that sport specialization does not correlate with better performance as kids get older. What we see instead is overuse injuries. Hey, we're going to put a kid as pitcher at 8 years old, and we're just going to start having him throw as hard as he can. And then at 10 years old, we want to start trying to teach him how to throw breaking balls. And then we're wondering why kids at 13 are getting Tommy John surgery. right? And why there's some parents who want kids to get Tommy John surgery because they know the kid's going to be stronger when they come back. What in the world? Kids aren't Frankenstein, right? They're kids. Let them be kids. Sleep deprivation, right? Practices during the week. Oh, and I also have to do homework. And then we're traveling all weekend and I'm tired, right? Emotional burnout. Kid goes 0 for 4 and dad is ripping him. Kid makes an error, mom is ripping him, right? Because they know the performance of their kid, or what they kind of equate the performance with their kid as their value as a parent, or their opportunity to get a college scholarship later, right? But what we see through the data is most college and pro athletes were multi-sport players growing up, right? So as parents, we have to create diversified a long-term development plan for our kids. So I got a better path for you. So I've kind of given you all the bad news, but I got a better path for you. And it's called LTAD. It's called Long-Term Athletic Development. And it's age-appropriate, stage-based model. And it emphasizes physical literacy, multi-sport experience, delayed competition, and a lifelong love of movement. Okay? And so I might share this with you. I'll give you a little bit of behind the scenes on this show. I'm just doing this show because one, I love to talk. Two, I miss being in front of a classroom, so I got to get it out somehow. And if people listen or if they don't listen, it's fine. This is just a way for me to kind of get it out. So it's completely self-serving. But three, I'm also not going to invest a lot of time. I did that in season 1 when I had this show in 2023. I had my own social media and I tried to do graphic overlays and all these different things. I don't have time to do that. If this gets picked up and it goes crazy, then that's great. If not, that's fine. Again, this is kind of for me, but I hope somebody listens and gets something out of this. I truly do. So let's talk about LTAD. If I can, I'll put this up on the screen in the show. So it's a visual show, but it's also an audio show. But this is a way to to keep kids active for life, right? Because I'm going to share a stat with you, and I'll go ahead and do it now. I might get into it a little bit more, but only about 5 to 6% of high school athletes are going to get are going to play college athletics. Let me repeat that. Around 6% of high school athletes are going to play college sports. So think about the millions and millions of kids playing high school athletics. Only 6% are going to play in college at all levels. Okay? Only about 1 to 2% are going to receive a scholarship, and even few are going to receive a full scholarship. Because most sports, and now things are starting to change a little bit, but most sports are equivalency sport. They're not head count sport in college. So equivalency sport, it means you've got a bucket of money, scholarship money that you have to give out. And baseball is one of those equivalency sports. So, while you're trying to chase that dream of becoming a scholarship athlete, you may get a college scholarship, but it may only be about $500 for your books, right? The opportunity for you as a non-football, non-basketball athlete to get a full ride, extraordinarily slim. So why are we playing sports? I mean, you got a much better chance of getting academic money than you do getting athletic money. So why are we playing sports? That's the question I want parents to continue to ask themselves. Why are we playing? What's the point? So LTAD has a little bit better way of developing kids for sport and to keep them active through life. First, it starts with the active start, and this is at birth. I'm going to have to get close to the screen so I can read my notes here, right? But we just want to kind of get them up, get them moving, get them going, let them explore. It's all completely unstructured. It's just free reign, just active start, just get them up, get them moving, let them explore, right? And then we go to fundamentals, right? And fundamentals is where we start to kind of get into sport a little bit. It could be anywhere from males 6 to 9, females 6 to 8, and it varies a little bit. You got to be able to read your kid. I probably got my son involved in sport a little bit too young. Physically, I think he was ready because he was showing signs even at 3 to 4 years old that he could hit a baseball. but mentally he wasn't ready yet. Emotionally he wasn't ready, and I probably did a poor job of getting him started in sport early. I saw physically he could do it, but I didn't realize emotionally he wasn't ready. So you need to be able to read your kid, right? So the first stage to kind of get him going, again, it's just I'm just going to say fundamentals. So active start, but then fundamentals, right? Anywhere from 6 to 9 boys, 6 to 8 girls. Right? And we're looking at low organized environment, multi-sport activities, fun, developmental, appropriate activities. Right? And so in the fundamentals, you can start to teach them a sport a little bit, but the first 3 letters, fun, you have to keep it fun. If you're coaching soccer and you're telling kids, okay, we're going to work on dribbling, and you're working with 6 to 8-year-olds and you're putting cones out and say, okay, dribble through these cones, and you put them in a line, it's like the worst thing you could do, right? You have to keep it fun. Use games to help kids to understand what it is that they have to do. This is something that I thought my son's coach this past season at T-ball did an excellent job of doing. They broke the kids out into little groups. They were never all together just waiting. And so you had one group doing infield, another group playing catch, or another group running the bases, and then another group hitting. So you only had about 3 or 4 kids per group. Everybody was moving and it was fun. And then, he would say, all right, your nickname today is ice cream. All right, go to first base, ice cream. Or your nickname today is popcorn. All right, popcorn, you're going to run all the way around to home, right? And they start calling each other ice cream and popcorn. That's fun. You have to keep it fun, right? And that's what we're going to do in that stage. And then from there, about 9 years old. So we're looking at boys 9 to 12, girls 8 to 11, right? We start to learn to train. And now we're going to take it up from having fun. We still want to keep it fun, right? But we want to make it a little bit more skilled based, right? And we can modify the competition a little bit. You can do a little bit of competition in fundamentals, but again, we're not keeping score, we're not keeping standings. It's just to give them an appreciation for play and what the game is. Once we get to the learning to train, we start to focus a little bit more on sport-specific skills. It doesn't mean you need to specialize at this age, but we start to focus on sport-specific skills here, right? So you still want to keep them in as many sports, in multiple sports, right? But if the kid starts to come into you and says, you know what, Dad, I really like playing basketball, and that's the only sport I want to do, then that's fine. However, we want to periodize their training. We still want to keep practice and training at the forefront with a little bit of competition at this age, right? 75% practice, about 25% competition. Right? And then we go to learning to train. So this would be boys 12 to 16. This would be females 11 to 15. And at this stage, this is where, in my opinion, and I think the data backs me up, we can start to compete a little bit, right? Start keeping score. Maybe even start keeping standings. This is where we start to get into middle school athletics. And I still, I even at the learning to train, males 9 to 12, females 8 to 11, I'm not very sanguine on keeping score. I don't think it means that you don't have games and you don't compete. But again, I want that focus on learning to train is how to play the sport. Because again, we're at different levels in puberty. And so if you get this overzealous coach and this learn to train from boys 9 to 12, females 8 to 11, who really just wants to win. And what we're going to do is give little Johnny the ball and everybody else get out of the way and we're going to win the championship. Well, the problem is maybe little Johnny developed before everybody else, but then everybody else is a late bloomer. And so little Johnny didn't learn the skills of the sport. He was just the biggest and strongest, so he was able to score. You have other people coming up underneath him who had to learn the skills. Little Johnny stops growing. Everybody else grows. They've got skills. They surpass him. Or, more than likely, those kids get frustrated and then they drop out. Right? That's why I'm not real sanguine on scores and standings at learning to train. Right? Now, train to train in this next level from males 12 to 16, females 11 to 15. Yeah, I think we can start to kind of separate a little bit here. This is where kids have to make a decision. Do I want to, excuse me, do I want to move forward and do I want to take this a little bit more seriously? Or do I just want to kind of maybe look for something else or kind of look for something a little bit more recreational? right? And so in this specialization, you can generally start to specialize in this area right here in this phase. Again, I would keep the training more training than competition, but it probably comes a little bit closer to 50% with training and competition. But I would still give kids the opportunity to play in multiple sports. And then we get to training to compete. Now think about high school varsity through college athletics. Right? So we've got the fundamentals. We have sport-specific skills. We know how to train for those sport-specific skills and how to train for a sport. Now we're training to win, right? And now this is where specialization, if you want to specialize in a sport, now this is where it starts to make sense, because I got this great base where I've played different sports and I don't have all these overuse injuries, and I'm a pretty good overall athlete, all-around athlete. And I know how to play this sport well because I've done the fundamentals, and I haven't been pushed real quick, so I haven't burned out. And now I'm ready to train to compete. Right? I'm ready to train to be a varsity athlete. I'm ready to train to possibly continue my game on to college, which takes us into training to win. And this is more kind of the training to win. It's more elite competition. Males 19 plus, females 18 plus. We're training to go, and we're training to be the best that we can be. Right? Competition starts to become a little bit more prevalent. We're starting to play a lot more. If you think about a college basketball season, you're playing 36 games or so. Right. Now we want to try to go and we want to try to win at this stage. We're worried more about tactical types of training as opposed to just kind of more fundamental type of training. Right? And then hopefully what that ends up in is that we're active for life. Like we haven't gone in the fundamental stage or the learn to train stage where we've got really frustrated and we're not having fun and we dropped out. Right? We've progressed really well. Even if we get to train and we haven't necessarily developed the skills to be good enough to play our middle school or high school team, we weren't frustrated. We just, okay, I wasn't good enough, but I really still love playing. I really love being active, and I want to continue to be active. And that's what we want, because we have an obesity crisis in this country. Right? So this is, as parents, this is what we need to do for our kids. And as coaches, this is what we need to do for our kids. And as I think about it with leadership, smart leaders, we play the long game. Right? You want to get quick wins where you can, but we want to be able to develop a system and develop kids that are going to be in it for the long term, and it's going to be sustainable. Right? A couple other stats that I want to throw at you. Right? 70% of kids from high-income families play sport. Only 31% from low-income families do. And I talked about this last week in the soccer episode. Just get kids out and playing, and that's what another thing. We're to the detriment of our elite athletes in this country. There's so many kids who could probably become elite athletes if they had an opportunity, but they're priced out because most of youth sport, it's all organized and you got to sign up and you got to pay, right? As much as possible, just get kids together and get them playing, right? Remove the barriers. Don't try to build them. Get kids involved. I mean, if anybody's listening and they got the money, if I had millions of dollars and could just do it, I would love to start a league where it's about as cost prohibitive as possible, and just get kids in, and we're going to focus on these principles and actually implement the principles that I'm talking about. Right? I would love to do that. And that's kind of my long-term vision one day, is to be able to do that. Doesn't matter how much you can afford, just come and play. Right? And it's going to be recreational. It's going to be fun. Everybody's going to get a chance to be able to perform. We're not worried about score. We're not worried about standings, but we are worried about kids learning the game, having an appreciation for the game, having an appreciation for the great values that sport brings, and then growing up to continue to be active. Right? And bring the joy back. Coaches, this is my last thing. Right? Coaches who give kids 10 to 15 minutes of free play before practice, they see greater enthusiasm and greater engagement during practice. Right? Have fun. Give them something fun to do, right? If you're a baseball coach with kids, think about what can you do before practice just to give them some free play, right? And it could be something totally unrelated to baseball. Maybe you have them play some two-hand touch football beforehand, right? Just for fun. But the big thing is get out of their way. Let the kids choose, all right? Let the kids choose. Have some sandlot style practices, right? Let the kids lead the drills. Let the kids determine what the drills are, right? Give them a say in it. It's going to be okay. They're going to turn out okay. And then kids will kind of self-sort, and you're going to be able to find who are the kids that take this seriously, who want to get to that train to compete stage, and who are those who just want to have fun, who eventually are going to move on to something else. We don't need to speed that up as parents and coaches. Let the kids dictate that. Right? So use sports. Let's develop kids physically, socially, and emotionally. Let's not just exhaust or exclude them. Leaders in youth sport. It's about balancing purpose with play, with performance, with joy. So next time you design a program, run a practice, or cheer from the sidelines, ask yourselves, is this still fun for them? So I'm off on vacation. I'll be back next week. Until next time, love God, love each other, be a good sport. Thanks for listening.